Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Hawley. I'm the president of the Virginia Council on Problem Gambling, and we are the state affiliate of the National Council on Problem Gambling, and we're a not-for-profit. And one of the main things that we do is we manage the state's problem gambling helpline, which is what the lottery funds, and the lottery is also a supporting member of the council. Additionally, I'm a professor and the executive director of the Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health at Virginia Commonwealth University. And what we do is we help connect all of those callers from the helpline to actual treatment and peer recovery support providers within their communities. And I want to thank you all for joining me. This month is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And it's no coincidence that Problem Gambling Awareness Month also coincides with March Madness, because this is a time where people are filling out their brackets with family and friends or at their workplaces. And many people who've never gambled before are now going to be initiated into gambling opportunities. So what we want to do is create awareness about gambling and some of the potential harms so that we can help reduce problems in the future. And we are also neutral on gambling. Now, as far as themes, this year's theme is about seeking understanding. And this is really important because problem gambling is a hidden condition. And it's also a highly stigmatized condition. And what this means is that people are less likely to reach out for support. So we want to change that dynamic. So what is problem gambling? Many terms are used to describe this. We can hear things such as gambling addiction or gambling disorder or compulsive gambling. But what problem gambling refers to is any type of gambling behavior that could be damaging to a person and their family members, gambling behavior that disrupts their daily life, their personal relationships, their education, their employment as well. When we look at problem gambling in the United States, what we find is about 1% of US adults have a gambling disorder. And so what that means is 2.5 million people have a severe problem gambling issue. An additional 2 to 3% or 5 to 8 million have a mild or moderate gambling problem. So these are individuals who may be at risk for developing more severe gambling problems. As far as financial impact, the amount of money lost or won doesn't really determine if somebody has a gambling problem or not. That's because income levels, it's variable. So how much you spend as in regards to your own means, that's relative. And the National Council on Problem Gambling also estimates that the annual national social costs of problem gambling is about 14 billion. And these costs includes crime-related gambling costs, healthcare costs. What they don't tend to include is loss of job productivity, home loss, or individual finances loss. More of those hidden loss are harder to determine. When we look at our helpline numbers in Virginia, we know that the number of our callers continues to grow every year. When we look at the total number of callers from 2023 as compared to 2024, what we found was a 49% increase. Some of this is related to greater awareness about our helpline number, and some of this is also related to as we have more gambling opportunities available in the state, and that includes both legal as well as illegal forms of gambling, that coinciding, more individuals are also reporting that they're having some problems with their gambling. As far as our intakes, we had over 1,000 people who contacted us specifically asking for help. And when we talk about that seeking understanding, I do want to point out especially with gambling, is what we find is people generally don't reach out until things are very extreme in their lives. So, what we want to do is encourage people to better understand what might be some of their risks for developing a problem earlier so we can better help that progression to having a gambling problem in the first place. So that maybe we can better encourage people to take a cooling off period where they can stop or minimize gambling before it becomes very severe. So, what are the common signs of having a gambling problem? How might we and our customers know that things are becoming problematic? Well, one of those is thinking about gambling all the time. Somebody may be reliving past gambling events and past gambling wins, or thinking about their next gambling activity, when that's going to take place, what they're going to do. Also, feeling the need to bet more time or need to bet more money more often. So, people are spending more than what they had planned. And a part of this is also time as well, spending more time than you had initially planned. And this is what we talk about in regards to tolerance. So, similar to what we find with substance use, where you need to consume more in order to feel that same level of excitement, the same effects of alcohol or drugs. The same as with gambling, that you need to have more to feel that same level of excitement. The other piece is going back to win your money, or what we call chasing losses. So for many people, after you've lost with gambling, you may not go back and continue to gamble. But for individuals with a problem, it's the opposite. That instead of walking away, that they will continue to gamble despite losing significant amounts of money, which brings to the next sign is gambling despite negative consequences. So negative financial consequences, negative relationship consequences, negative employment consequences, is at this point, somebody with a severe gambling problem, that their main focus is going to fulfill that urge, that craving to gamble at other costs, which brings us to that next piece, is not being able to control yourself with gambling. And then finally, feeling restless or irritable when trying to cut down or stop gambling, and being unsuccessful with being able to stop gambling. And this relates again to withdrawal. So similar to what we find with alcohol and substance use, is people with a gambling problem will have a similar experience of withdrawal. And this is related to some of the neurobiological aspects of addiction. And it shows that physiologically, that dependence upon gambling is happening. And people will report headaches, sleepless nights, and other effects when trying to cut back. Now, who's at risk for a gambling problem? Well, anyone who gambles is at risk for developing a gambling problem. And we also know that certain groups may be at higher risk. Certainly, children and teens are at higher risk for developing problems later in life. And this is part of the reason why we also want to delay youth from being initiated into gambling as long as possible. There's distinct research out there that, again, similar to what we find with substance use, that the earlier you start using, the more likely you are to develop a problem. And here too, we find the lottery takes this very seriously with their attempts to prevent youth from playing the lottery. We also see certain groups, such as veterans, may be more at risk. genetically, if you have a family history of addiction in your family, whether it's gambling or substance use, you may be more at risk. Elder populations also, we find, may be more at risk for developing a problem. So how can somebody be addicted to something that isn't a substance? And this is part of that seeking understanding, is that process of addiction. What we're finding is that, again, when we look at brain imaging studies, that individuals with a gambling problem, that their brains and how they respond to gambling is very similar to individuals such as somebody with a cocaine addiction and how they respond to cocaine use. And that physiological adaptation to addiction that we see with those mechanisms such as tolerance, needing more and more to have that same level of excitement, as well as withdrawal, that feeling irritable and having physiological effects when trying to cut back, that again, that we know there are changes happening to our brains and to our bodies as a result of gambling, similar to alcohol and substance use. And so, not surprisingly, we also find that people who have a problem with their gambling are also struggling with other types of conditions. So problem gambling, that we find about 90% of people with that diagnosis are also going to have another comorbid condition. So another condition that's co-occurring. And much of that is related to things such as depression or anxiety. What's hard to detect is which came first. So was that person depressed and then using gambling as a way to help alleviate that? Or are they depressed as a result of all the significant things that are happening to them because of their gambling problem? We also find high rates of alcohol use disorder as well as substance use disorder. One of the more alarming statistics that we know of is about 1 in 5 individuals who have experienced problems with their gambling have attempted or completed suicide. And this is the highest rate among all the addictions, which I think speaks to this being such a hidden condition, as well as the stigma around gambling problems where individuals are not reaching out for help. And when they do, that help has not been available. So, what are tips to safer gambling? Because as I mentioned, our whole goal is to stop people from developing gambling problems in the first place. Right? One, and this is something that we know, we see this on our lottery tickets, is know the game. So encouraging people to know the odds of any game that they're playing. So it's not so much a skill or something within themselves that's causing the wind, how random the game actually is. Also, for everyone to make a plan, know how much you're willing to lose and how long you want to play. So set your limits for time and money. Also, expect to lose. You hope to win, but expect to lose. You're playing to have a good time, so don't chase your losses. As far as money, do not borrow money to gamble, and don't gamble with money that you don't have or you can't afford to lose. Team up as well. Make gambling a fun social event versus doing it alone and becoming more isolated. And finally, gambling is meant to be entertainment. It's meant to be fun. So look at it that way. It's not a way to make money. As far as responsible gaming, we know our Virginia Lottery has large commitment to responsible gaming, and they've been a strong partner of the Virginia Council on Problem Gambling since our inception. So why do we do it? Well, the first reason to do it is because we care about our customers. Right? We want to know that the product that we're providing and we're supporting, that it's doing what it intends to do. So for people to have fun with it and not to have people having harm from it. So it's just good business for our customers. We also want to do it for all of your sakes because problem gambling and we're seeing and hearing from individuals who are struggling with gambling problems, it hurts our morale as well. We want to work for an industry again that is doing good things, such as supporting education programs and other things that the lottery is doing. And one, it's also good for business in regards to problem gamblers. When somebody develops a problem, it hurts other sales. And it hurts other sales, for one, that person with a gambling problem, while they may be a good customer in regards to spending a lot in a short time, they're not going to be a customer over the long haul, that they're going to have to stop. It also hurts when at any of our retailers, if somebody's purchasing and holding up lines or having some distress, it hurts our other sales as well. And finally, again, part of that is that public perception. We want to feel good about the product that we're doing. What are our goals for any responsible gaming programs? Well, as we're talking about here, is to minimize and prevent harm from our gambling, to decrease the development of problem gambling, to increase employee knowledge and awareness about problem gambling so that you can better address a customer who's in need. So how are individuals with a gambling problem identified by you all? Well, sometimes that individual may directly approach you and ask for help, or they may exhibit signs that there might be a problem, but they're not asking for help, such as spending more time and money or having visual distress or irritation upon losing or complaining about losses and financial problems. Or a third party may indicate that there's a problem, such as a retailer or a family member. So how do we address a concern after it's been identified? First, familiarize yourself with your Virginia Lottery responsible gaming policies and information. That the responsible gaming team has spent a lot of time and effort providing resources for you all, so please make yourself familiar with them. As mentioned, and we just discussed, is familiarize yourself as well with what are some of those signs and symptoms of a gambling problem, but you are not trained clinicians. It is not your job to point out individuals you suspect may have a problem or diagnose them, right? But if somebody is exhibiting a problem or they come to you for help, please know resources that you can provide them to better ensure that they get the help that they need. As far as how you respond to a customer in need is please be attentive to what they're saying. Our goal is to make sure that you're able to express concern and empathy for that individual and offer assistance. So always be respectful, be discreet. If somebody is in a public area, moving to a more private area where perhaps it's less public would be better. Also, somebody may be approaching you, they may be angry. Do not battle or confront anger, just remain calm. They may make unreasonable requests of you, such as wanting their money back. And again, just be calm and repeat message of concern. And if somebody's willing, provide help resources. And definitely maintain emotional distance as well. Do not give out your personal information, such as phone numbers or emails, right? Or continue to discuss away from a site. Now, as for resources in our state, number one resource is our Virginia Council on Problem Gambling, which again, the lottery funds. And our number is 888-532-3500. This is the first line for anybody who may be experiencing a gambling problem, or their loved ones, or actually anyone in Virginia can call this number. It's free, it's 24/7, and we'll provide that education or information or resources that a person needs. Our next help resource is the Virginia Partnership on Gaming and Health. And what we do is we connect all of those callers, or individuals, people can directly refer themselves as well, to treatment providers and peer recovery specialists that can assist them with minimizing gambling related harm. And if somebody doesn't have the ability to pay, we also reimburse for those treatment and recovery services. And this is funded through the Virginia Problem Gambling Treatment and Support Fund, administered by our Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. So thank you all. Please, if you have questions, reach out to me. My information is cehawley@vcu.edu. Again, cehawley@vcu.edu. And thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you today.